Hey, what's up, guys? My buddy Nero, I want to thank him for getting me this a couple of years ago. I just got around to it now. The U.S.S. Stevens stories from Sam Glanzman. Now, I've gone over a lot of his work, most of it in the war genre. Lonely War of Willie Schultz, of course, all the GI combat stuff, the Hornet Tank. He had also done that crazy Dinosaur Island comic. I went over with Dell. But this is, to me, this was one of my favorite artists, and it is still, he's one of my favorite artists in that American style, building off of like the Golden Age, the guys, or I should say the Silver Age, the guys really who developed their craft to a higher level, doing stuff other than superheroes. Yeah, Sam was always a really good technical drawer, and these stories are the ones they were in backups of most of the DC War comics, but eventually he graduated to Savage Tales and Epic Comics, which was the Marvel adult imprint. I remember back in the 80s. Sam actually wrote these stories because Sam actually was a sailor on a destroyer during World War II. And like they bring up it was the name, the serial number, the 479 was what he was there on. And it's interesting to see that DD 479. It was like I said, destroyer. It's a Fletcher class destroyer. I don't know that much about naval ships. It's only so much I can go for, but it's interesting the history of it. They returned back, at the end of the war, decommissioned. The U.S.S. Stevens name was struck in December 72, and her hull sold for scrap a year later, at around the time that his comics of this were coming out. It's interesting too, man. Sam was like a lot of everybody knows, it's not a myth. Everyone knows the World War II vets that didn't talk about. I'm talking about the Americans. I mean, I talked to my grandfather was a vet on the other side. He did the same sort of like they didn't really talk about like things you would think of like in a movie or anything like that. Like he goes, I can't tell you no war stories because I'll start crying. He confessed to tears at a comic convention. I get pissed off sometimes. I'm sorry, but god damn it, I seen guys crushed, squished, pissed on, every goddamn thing you could think of. They were boys. And they fought for the United States. They fought for you. So you could sit around here and bullshit. Oh, very interesting. Let's get into the comic of one of the greatest American comic book artists ever, Sam Glanzman. So actually, remember he worked for Dell, right? That was that Kona comic. But the one of the combat stories he did for them, 479. This is his destroyer. Okay? But it wasn't until he was in DC that he really was basically given license to make these stories. And these are some of the probably the best now in hindsight comics, war comics you have, because there was the narrative. It was like ultra realistic. Okay, the guy was there, and the stories didn't really follow a huge, narrative. Intro, middle, end. He only had about 4 or 5 pages at the most. Later on, he had some longer stories, but and you see the style, right? The very technical style, the submarines, the destroyers, guns, here's one with the Baka, right? Well, this is already, of course, the kamikazes, right? The Baka. Of course, they called it the Oka. That was the rocket. Remember, I went over that in the Divine Wind video I did, and just brutal stories. It's implied that this thing is gonna hit. Remember one of them blew a destroyer in half. I've gone over that, but you see, it's sort of the stories begin to open up. Obviously, they go from being kind of just almost like this is something that really happened. Things that really happened. It's a little more. But here's a cool one where they have one of the Japanese fighters they were making at the end, the Heian fighters, which was actually really good. It was a cannon-armed fighter. And the duel that they actually saw, where this thing actually outfought, it actually managed to dodge the P-38 and have it overshoot it, and actually shot it down, or at least just won that engagement. So that you see stuff like this in here. You don't see these stories like these heroic. You see heroism, but it's it's more of a human thing. You know, here's one with the crazy side of like what the look at that, some kind of Japanese Lone Ranger or some kind of nut. And you get to remember the rockets they had. They used to make it. Everyone talks about Stalin organs, but the rockets that the Americans had, they made like kind of an organ of hell sound too. You know, and the story. Remember, these are short kind of stories, right? You see the Lone Ranger, and somebody lit him up, and captain wasn't too happy about that. The captain actually, this was actually the guy that was his captain on the ship. But you can see where I'm going. You see how the stories are kind of, you know, like when you drop this and you listen and you hear this, and this poor bastard, burial at sea. But I want to sort of get. I might have to do more than one vid. I want to get a little more into some of this stuff because you start to see these things get, as he opens up a little more and gets used to it, like the things like shell shock, it really starts to, like I said, this is like Vietnam Journal, Don Lomax. This is probably the best war comics ever made. Yeah, this story, Kamikaze, where it's about one of the nameless pilots. You almost never see stuff like this. Even in Two-Fisted Tales in the 50s or in the Korean War, where it's just focusing on the kamikaze pilot, his childhood, and you see the art, you see the culture of Japan, right? But then, as the story goes on, he's like, "Father, mother, where are you?" And his parents, he couldn't save them, right? The firebombing of Tokyo, March 1945. Right? Why would a guy do something so crazy like this? Yeah. Tatsuno Sakigawa died for the emperor, for country, for honor, but mostly to avenge the death of his parents, the destruction of his home, the loss of his own life. Historical note, right? 250,000 Japanese died in the fire rage. I mean, this is literally 2 days killed these many people. As you can see, even Hiroshima, you had a smaller count. Not minimizing that. I'm just saying they keep bringing the firebombing up. So, and yeah, I guess I'm a hippie, huh? And here's a story where it seems like, a bunch of these mugs, they're sneaking off. They bribe the Chinese guy to make him go on leave. They're not allowed to go on leave in particular. So they're going to go and have some fun, yeah. So this area is secure, right? They're eating Chinese food. Who knows what they're going to do later with the women. But unfortunately for them, in Qingdao, Qingdao, former German colony, one of the largest breweries in the world, but not for these guys. And you never saw stuff like this. You wonder how the young kids reading the comics took stuff like this, where you had like, a story where you see the Japanese guy just kill 4 sailors, and he doesn't get punished in the story, right? Is one where they, you got the Chinese, of course. They're poor. The guy's trying to trade stuff for them, and then you get toxic masculinity. No, you get a guy's a jerk. You don't do what this guy does. What you doing tonight, babe? Right? Cute chick. Why can't we bring her aboard? You can see she's friggin' skinny as rails. His brother's there. Cut it out. She's got enough problems without you, right? And you get the guy just keep pushing, and then you just see her like, he is fat while we starve. He sleeps contented while we grovel for food. If he wants me, he can take me as his. Let him rob us of our last shred of dignity. No, please do not censure him. He too is a victim like us, a victim of a hellish war. And even this guy's like, jeez, come on. And the guy's like, the old man's like, warriors, what do they know about war? It's like, see, another one with the Baka, right, the Oka, and then the Betty bombers, right? I think Sam actually saw one of these things in combat, and just that story where it's like, for some reason this guy just keeps flying. You don't know if he missed on purpose or what. Right, he failed, but he rode the Baka. It never failed. Yeah, this one's good one. You got after the like Tarawa or something like that. The guy's like, these sailors, like one of their soldiers. He doesn't look like much to me. Yeah, I bet you I could take on 3 of those shrimps at one time. Right? And you see the Marine, he's like, shut your damn mouth, Swabby. Right? Obviously, these are the rivalry between these two. Right? The Navy's like, yeah, we carry you, Mooks. But obviously, this dude's like, what's up with him? What he's so riled up about? How do you like that gyrene? That's what they call the Marines. I would have punched him in the nose. Forget it. We're on the same side, you know. And they show. And you see something, like I said, this Glanzman, I mean, I don't know where you hide stories like these in, compared to these other stories that you had in the war comics. A bunch of Marines overrun, outnumbered Japanese. One guy left, he actually gets the better of the Marine. And that guy, though, was like, no, you can't just kill him. Give him a chance to surrender. But he's like, I never surrender, right? And this is the guy he buried, right? Shut your damn mouth, Swabi, right? Kunko, Japanese word for respected, valiant, courageous. So you can see the respect of this, right? And this one too, I like this, like poetry or something. And look at this war, man.